Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's Tractorman Party 4 here. I got a viewer named Steven. He's from somewhere out around Colorado, but he expressed interest in buying this Belsaw. He said there are virtually no Belsaws for sale in his area. He searched all around everything that he could possibly find, and though this one has a few mechanical issues and a few adjustment issues, he seemed to feel that this would be a good machine for him. If he wants it, I want him to have it, simply because this has only been a temporary for me anyway. Something I've been kind of playing with, made a few improvements on, but never did actually take the time to totally get it dialed in, to make it really, really nice. So what I'm doing for him today is I'm doing a bit of a comprehensive video on it so we can actually see a little better the actual condition of all the parts and pieces. One thing, Stephen, I got to tell you right off the bat, I've been calling this thing a 50-inch circular blade. I stuck my tape measure on a little while ago. This is a 48-inch blade. It's a 48-inch blade. I was totally wrong about being 50-inch. And one other thing, I suspected that arbor was an 1 3/8 arbor. And how memory fails, it's been a number of years since I messed with this. It's an actual 1 1/2 arbor. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull that blade off. We're going to go ahead and verify the bore and everything. And then the pins, I remember them as being 5/16 pin. That could or could not be correct, or may not be correct. But at any rate, we'll go ahead and get a lot of those measurements, and we'll get a little closer look at it. I've got those little outfeed boards on it right there, the little table for the boards to fall on as it comes off the riving knife. I'm going to go ahead and take off those boards because I have to remove those, number one. They can be there for transport, but I have to remove the inside one at least to easily get the blade off. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to look a little closer at some of the things. So this is for everybody else that wants to take a closer look at this A14 Foley Belsaw or Belsaw Takeoff driven sawmill. First off, you can see I added the center knee and the center head block. The carriage itself is 72-inch. From outside to outside is 72-inch. From center to the head blocks each is going to be roughly 65 inches thereabouts. But I'll go ahead and put this one in here just to give it a little more stability when you're resawing boards. When you're resawing thinner boards, 6 foot on center makes them flop pretty awful bad. And then of course I had to make my own dogs. I could have made them a little bit better, but this was kind of the route I went because I didn't do enough research to actually do them the way they really should have been. But I do have the original 2, and I've got part of the portion that came off of this head block, but there's actual no knife, and the casting is broke on it, as you'll see. I seem to think it was a 48-inch extension that can be put either on the back of the carriage or on the front of the carriage, but I don't know exactly. We'll have to get that out and measure that. As far as the wheels and stuff are concerned, I had to make a couple of new wheels. I can't remember which ones because they were just a couple of them were rotted plumb away. But I went ahead and made them on the metal lathe and went ahead and bored the center axle part down through the center and threaded and tapped, put a grease fitting in it, and then drilled a hole in the side to where whenever you pump grease into it, of course, it comes out the hole and then lubricates the inner portion of where that roller rubs on. It's not exactly like the originals from the manufacturer, but doggone similar. But at any rate, they're in halfway decent shape. They probably need a little bit of attention, needs to be taken off and completely gone through. And you can see how it duplicated, how you attach this to the knee. I got slots and stuff in there for tightening it down and adjusting the wiggle on this right here for whenever you latch your dogs down. It still has got a little bit of a play in it, but those are adjustable. There's slots in them for raising up and down and getting them to cup on the bottom of that knee a lot tighter. The total length from one end of it to the other is roughly 30 foot and 6 inches, so roughly 31 foot or thereabouts. If you're concerned about what the length of the flatbed is that you've got to put it on, I think you said 25 foot, so with a 5 foot dovetail, so this should be okay with just a minimum amount of hanging over. Every one of these has a pedestal and an adjusting nut down here, but I didn't mess with any of those. This thing was buried in the ground whenever I got it from that old guy way back years ago, and I just went ahead about the business of just leaving them in position and not even messing with trying to get those adjustments working. I think there's 14 of those adjusting legs on here, but I'm going to go ahead and pull off of those little outfeed boards there, and then we're going to take a look a little closer at that blade. These little mills came set up with a 40-inch diameter blade. I just told you a minute ago I mistakenly had been calling this for a number of years a 50-inch blade. This is not a 50 inch, it's 48 inches. And it takes a 2-inch wrench to pop that off of there. Okay, with the boards completely off, a lot easier for me to get access in here. When I put this on, I put it on with anti-seize. This one has 5/16 pins, but those holes are about 5/8. This guide over here is made to swing out so you can slide the insert and everything plumb off of the arbor. I got to loosen this up and then go ahead and let this swing out. Okay, once these adjustments here are loosened plumb up, then this becomes exceptionally flexible, and it should allow it to hinge out enough for you to clear the arbor with that blade and the insert still inside it. Now we're going to get to looking at this in just a second. I'll show you how that was broken and what I did to repair that. There's the insert. We'll knock that out here in just a second. But you can see that's a full 2-inch bore. The holes right here, doesn't matter what their diameter is as long as they're in alignment with the pins, the locking pins, because once it rotates up, it'll just push on one side of the bore. But these bores are 5/8. Let's take a little closer look at the arbor. Here's a vernier caliper. It's 1 3/8 inches right here. On the other side of this is actually machined down to 1 3/8 inch. To and through the bearing is 1.5 inches. Once it comes through the bearing and machined down to go into these fellas here at 1 3/8. I thought I'd remembered. Let me double check that. Yes, 1 3/8. Once you get these adjustments back loose, like I said, that'll allow this to go this way or that way and allow you to slide that blade into or off of the arbor just like that. Then you adjust this back in. But I'm going to show you what I had to repair to make this work. Now that just slides out of there like that, but you can't remove it whenever the blade's in place. If you look very, very closely right here, you see an aluminum casting all the way across here, the full width. Right here and over here on the other side exactly like it, they're broke off. Those ears, whatever it was up there that adjusted, was not with the machine, so I had to come up with a way to make adjustment. So I took this heavy 3/8 inch piece of angle iron and I drilled and tapped it and put these 5/16 grade 8 bolts through it here to hold it intact, and then I drilled and threaded and put 1/2 inch adjusting screws back here that'll put pressure in here on this slotted area that adjusts it this way and that way. And of course the hook is what rests over the back side, and then these guys here, these guys right here, is what rotates around that radius to get you that little bit of an adjustment. So this part here is not factory, but in my estimation it's much more substantial because that casting, obviously it was very easily broken because, like I said, it was snapped off and gone. Might look a little bad, but it does a really good job. So we're out here to the power takeoff portion of it. You can see it's just driven entirely by a BX, a BX50 belt. It's just a V belt. It's a 5/8. That'd be a 5/8 wide B belt. This is a kind of pitted. It's actually very pitted now that I actually look at it. That may require a little bit of work, but I think up here, if I remember right, the last time I'd done a little work on this, I had this off, and I think it's pretty clear underneath this portion right here of the yoke where that attaches to it. But that's a full 1.5 inch shaft right here. Let me just settle on 1.5 inches. There's 1.5 inches right there. There it is. Nice and snug at 1.5 inches. It's definitely a little bit pitted there though. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull this off of here and we'll take a look and see what the condition of that shaft is underneath there. A little closer view of the drum, the cable and drum, and also the belts. The belts are actually in inadequate condition. They're not too bad. The forward reverser over here actually is a dual V belt. It has a V belt on this direction and on the back side instead of being flat. That allows you to go forward and backwards with that one belt. You notice the carriage speed going forward is reasonably slow. The return speed, the carriage reverse, is exceptionally fast. There's no feathering to this like a flat belt. You can actually feather it and slow it down. I've not been able to figure out how to feather this or slow it down. You get what you get when it comes to carriage speed. Here's the input shaft with the power takeoff taken off. You can see right here it begins the pitting and everything, but from here out it's got some pitting, but it's definitely a substantial enough shaft to where whatever kind of a pulley you want to put on there you can. You can actually put a coupling on here and you can extend that shaft out with a brand new piece of 1.5 inch shaft if you want. Then you would have to build a bracket with a carrier bearing with your fat belt drive here, and then you have to build down off of whatever it is you support this with or build off the bottom of the bar joist and everything to make something secure to support that flat belt drive. Now if you look at my homemade dogging mech clamps, you'll see originally what Belsaw has is just a flat piece of steel attached down here with 2 points for the dogs to slide up and down on, and they're not exceptionally substantial. So what I did, I drilled and countersunk machine threaded screws through the backside. I've got 4 of them on each one, and I put flat gear on the front of this, drilled and tapped and threaded those right into the back of the flat gear. Then I took a matching circular gear like this, and I machined a flat spot on it like here. In other words, removed the teeth, so that when I line the flat spot up with the teeth, we can slide it up and down. Once you engage it, then you can pull the gear down like this. Once you engage the dog off of the flat spot, then you can just index it downward with that gear in the teeth. See? And then these here, they're not a bad design, but they're not perfectly designed. These things here, I should have had more of a point on them instead of being flat. This is 3/4 inch steel, and this is also a little too deep right here. This needs to be cut down to probably 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. That'll allow you to get much closer to the saw blade whenever you have it dogged into your cant right up next to the head block. So that's some changes that might be able to be made. But at any rate, the way this works, it just slides in here like this. And of course you can see it's adjustable from up close to the head block all the way out really, really wide. But I just stick them on here like that. Put them on there like this. You can slide them up and down. Okay? And then pull this out to wherever you want it to be. Engage the gear whenever it comes in contact with the log. And then just pull this down. Is it the best in the world? No, it's definitely not the best. This would have worked better if I would have made it an eccentric, a round eccentric, and just let the handle, like a normal sawmill, just let that eccentric bite up against this flat. I think that would have been a little bit better than what I actually built. But I didn't know that at the time. Well, here's a bucket full of odds and ends. Here's actually a brand new set of rollers. Here's a set. These are the guide wheels. These were off of that spare carriage assembly that I told you I had. This is the flat part that goes on the opposite side of the guide wheels. Those are the old ones that was on that second carriage assembly. Here's one of the locking. I told you they were slotted to where you have to slide them up like this, where that'll grab underneath the knee and tighten up the rocking back and forth of your head block. That's what this is right here. So these are adjusted by adjusting those up right here, which puts pressure on the bottom of the knee. Here is the only head block that was on the extra carriage I got, and it's broken. You can see the casting is broken right here, so that's all missing. This is the second head block off of that other carriage. The other head block I had to move over to put the third knee and all that stuff, you know, and the head block, and then also the dog assembly on that one. This is the original set of dogs that came with the Belsaw as I got it. If you take a look, this is 3/4 inch material here, and it's only 1/4 inch thick. It just doesn't work at all. You'd lock it down in there, the log would just pull right out from under it. And also, you can see up close, you know, this is all brazed because the gear was broken on this one, and the gear was broken on the other one as well. I brazed both of them back, filed them down as good as I could. And at the same time, the little finger that reached in here on a slot on the dog was wallowed completely out and wouldn't engage. So I actually used I cut a piece of 1/4 inch material and sandwiched it right on there with some flush machine screws, and then threaded and tapped these to where that would give us more meat to bite, but still the dogs would just pull right on through and they would bend. See how this would bend? They would bend all the time. I have to bend them back. The way these guys worked, you notice you got 2 slots in here, and if you notice your head block, if you was going to go up close, like you're getting really close to your cant, you would move it to here, but if you were starting out, you would go ahead and start out way back here on the back side. And of course it slide up and down, and once you get it in, it would rock like this as you would lock it into your log, just like a typical dog, or just like a typical dog. But that's pretty much the spare parts and pieces. Here's a few of these. This is all I dug around and found laying around the sawmill in the woods where it came from. These were not ever used, as far as I can tell, and they were just laying there in the weeds. Now that carriage assembly, like I said, that second carriage assembly, I had to dismantle it, but I've got the set works and everything in it. It's a little rusty and everything, but it's all intact. And then the framework, of course, it's pretty much disassembled, but I've got the extra knee and all that stuff, everything out there. I've not been able to put my finger on that carriage extension. I know it's here somewhere, hung on the wall, or it's gotten covered up with some metal or something like that. I'm sure I'll find it before too awfully long. But at any rate, that's about as good of going over as what I can get you. And if you got any questions anymore, Stephen, just go ahead and leave a comment in the video, and I'll tell you whatever I know. Again, that blade definitely needs to have new bits and shanks, and one is missing. There's one of them not even on the blade, but that blade needs hammered. If you hammered that for a right-handed mill at 540 RPM, I think you'll find that this thing is going to function really, really well. At any rate, that's pretty much the whole thing in a nutshell. I've got the blade off of it. I've got everything. I got the part takeoff shaft off. Everything is pretty much ready to load up, all out of here. And this is Tractor Man 44, and I'm out of here, guys.